Let's talk about tax and why that pushes up rent. So one of the things I really, really enjoy, and I don't know if I've got a streak of sadomasochism inside of me, but one of the things I really enjoy is getting into arguments with people, nameless, anonymous people on Twitter or on Reddit or on Facebook or whatever, about landlordism, the rentier type person, which obviously I am. The what do we call it? Who's the really bad landlord in Rising Damp? Anyway, that landlord, Rigsby, the Rigsbyism, and so on. So, but I like to talk about tax because people go, "Oh, greedy landlords always pushing rents up." I'm like, no, you know, it's because of Section 24 tax, right? And they're like, by the way, they never go, "Huh, what?" Ever. They never do that. They're always like, silence. Because then they don't know what Section 24 is. I've done this with MPs, and I'm like, you do know what Section 24 is, right? You do know that you voted to increase rents. You know, your party increased rents through the taxes. And they just don't get it. They just don't understand it. They just talk about greedy landlords because it's a nice little thing to fling out there to direct the blame elsewhere. And if Boris and his cronies are any good at something, not a lot, they are good at redirecting blame and, whatever happened to the second jobs thing that was a big thing a couple of weeks ago, all completely hidden. Let's go kill a couple of people through COVID and lack of anything in terms of guidance. I've completely forgotten about that. Anyway, so why does tax push up rent? So obviously we've got Section 24. And this means that in the past, if you were earning £1,000 a month on rent and your mortgage was £700, you could deduct the £700, and so your profit was £300. Let's just forget about maintenance and service charges and ground rents and all of that extra little bits and cleaning and all that stuff. Let's just keep it nice and simple. So if you're earning £1,000, your mortgage is £700, interest aspect only, not the repayment part. Maybe your mortgage would be £500 at that rate, right? But let's assume it's £500. 1,000 minus 500, you're taxed on the other 500. Whereas now you're taxed on the whole £1,000. Now, if you're a 40% taxpayer, you're paying £400 on that. So not only is your mortgage £500, you're also now paying £400. So now you're making £100. Now, if you need the £500 to live, because that's the money that you live on, you've got to increase the rent. It's as simple as that. Now, some people think that tax increases have zero to do with the increase on rent. And it's like, how on earth could that be? Obviously, if a landlord's being taxed more and they want to maintain the same level of profit. Now, they might not be able to maintain the same level of profit. They might have to take a hit on that profit. And even worse, not just take a hit on the profit, they're going to have to start making a loss on that property investment. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the landlord's going to go, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry about it, I'll just take the hit"? Of course not. But why would anybody have an asset that doesn't pay them money? That's not an asset, it's a liability. Remember, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rule number 1, an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. And it's true. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. But if you're losing money, why on earth would you keep the asset? I mean, you get other people going, "Oh, I think it's disgusting that rents are more than mortgages." How do you think landlordism works? Why do you think the property is there in the first place for you to rent? Like, landlords are not doing this out of the goodness of their heart. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's nothing better than being able to provide a nice house to a lovely person. We got a text yesterday, which I put in a mastermind group on Facebook, and it was from a landlord. He said, "Not going to lie, the property's lush. Love, because I asked how the house was. Not going to lie, the property's lush. Love living here," right? So that gives me a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. But if I was losing a couple of £100 a month on that property, do you think I'd be doing it to get a text like that once every 6 months? Of course I wouldn't. Well, it just doesn't make even sense. Would you go to a job where you had to pay your employer? Of course you wouldn't. So this is the problem with tax. And fine, there's tax situations. I love this saying, by the way, don't blame the player, blame the game. When we talk about wealth creation and you get people who hate landlordism and they hate people making money and they hate rich people. Oh, rich people. And it's like, what do you mean rich people? I think they really mean the people at the upper echelons. Like in America, we've gone about Elon Musk not paying his tax. That dude's paid £11 billion in tax, the single biggest amount of tax ever that a single person has paid. And they still hate this guy. This guy could turn water into wine, walk on water. This guy could could save humanity from doom, and they would still find a way of hating him because he's wealthy. And he's wealthy because his share prices have gone up. It's not even a realised gain, and they're going, oh, he doesn't pay tax. You can't tax an unrealised gain. His wealth goes up and down daily, as does mine. If property prices drop 20%, I don't pay more or less tax based on what the value of my house is worth. I pay tax on what my income is. And anyway, the government has changed the way that the tax thing changes. That means that some landlords are now having to pay more money out than money than they're receiving, and landlords are going, oh, something doesn't add up there, maybe I'll just sell the damn thing. That puts the property back on the market. That reduces the amount of size of available properties. Like if you go to Leeds on Rightmove, LS1, 2-bed apartments, there's like 6 properties on there. If that. Depending on what it is. There's hardly anything to rent right now. The reason why there's hardly anything to rent is because the tax increases have pushed landlords out. And unfortunately, the lower the yields, the less property there is. So this is what happens, interestingly. If you've got a lower yield, so if you've got a big flat, like I've got a flat worth 250 grand in the centre of Leeds, right? It's a really nice grade 2 listed penthouse building, right on Park Row, right slap bang in the middle, beautiful place, and it's worth about 250. So the higher up the property value, generally the lower the yield. That's generally how it works. You get better yields at the bottom end, but then you get really scuffer tenants, and that's not really what you want. And so, yeah, it's a better yield, but then you've got so many more problems, and the property's empty longer, and so on. So you've got to find a balance between really high yields and decent yields. But the higher up you go, the smaller the yields get. And so what happens is that because it's got lower yields and because of Section 24, those landlords at the upper end are actually affected more. So what happens is they're now selling those, which means that these properties at the upper end, we went from £1,000 a month to £1,300 a month, right? Like literally the transition of the last tenant, and we've done this on 2 properties in the same building in the last 6 months. It's gone from about £1,000, £900 up to £1,300, £1,350. And so there's less of these higher end properties, and the people who are used to living in higher end properties that still rent, because those people still exist. My last tenant was a heart surgeon at LGI or St James's or wherever he happened to work. But those people still exist. Just because you're on a lot of money doesn't mean you don't want to rent. You move around for jobs and all sorts of different things. Contracts and all sorts of different things. So those properties that are higher yields, the rents on those have actually shot up higher than the properties at the lower ones. I've got properties worth maybe 70 grand, or probably about 95 grand now actually, because the prices have shot up. But their rents have gone from 500 to 550 to 600. Obviously, that's still, 10% uplifts, but 10-15% uplifts. But it's not as much as the 30% uplift on these higher ones. And so all these tax things that are happening, all of these have implications further down the line. And then you go on Twitter and people come out with the graphs from the ONS, the Office of National Statistics, and it's like the ONS are complete and utter liars about what's happened. They were saying rents had increased 1.4% or something in the last, not this year, the year before. And I'm scratching my head going, 1.4%? Mine have definitely increased more than that. And again, this year they've increased more than that. And I'm hoping they'll increase again much more than that next year, because that's how we increase our wealth. And then the cash flow that we get, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, but that cash flow we can then put to good use to generate more cash flow, pay down debt, buy crypto, move it into ISAs and that kind of thing. So, and I know, by the way, because I've run the numbers, but my rental income has increased by 46% since January 2010. So, that's in 12 years, just coming into the 12th year. So call it 11 years. Give another 11 years, I will be very, very happy with a 46% increase, but I expect it will actually be higher, like 60-65%. I mean, I will be very, very happy with that. And obviously that's then just going to piss off the people who claim we're rentiers because we've done nothing extra for that work. And you're absolutely right. We took the risks 23 years ago when we had no money, when we lived on potatoes and beans for a whole month. And people go, oh, no, you didn't do that. Of course we bloody well did. How do you think we got into property? It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Or if it was easy, everybody who wanted to do it would be doing it. It's not that easy. I wish it was that easy, but it's not that easy. We had to make big, big sacrifices to get onto that first deal and the second deal and the third deal. We took massive, massive risks and we got there. But all these people who hate landlordism and rentiers, you're just increasing rents for no reason. Well, Section 24 is a really good reason. And that's the reason you've pushed landlords out. And then the funny thing is that you get these same people going, oh, we should tax landlords even more. They don't deserve the money. Well, let's tax them out, tax them to the hilt until they have to sell. And it's like, but that's what's already happened. And now you're moaning that rents have gone up and you want to do the same again? You want to put rents up again? It doesn't make sense to me. But then you try and explain this to people, and then they come out and go, oh, well, Adam Smith said in his book in 1826, oh, Keynesian economics says, well, Marxism determines that. And I'm like, dude, you got a lot of big words, but you got no fucking clue. You might be well-educated, well-read. How many landlords have you spoken to? What's your experience in property? Oh, well, I've rented property for 12 years. What, one property? Oh, that must make you an expert then. Let's get you on the telly. It's ridiculous. Oh, I do enjoy a good rant. I hope you enjoy my rants as much as I do, because I thoroughly enjoy them. Anyway, that's why tax is pushing up rents. That's why it's causing a problem. That's why tax will continue to push up rents. We've got this whole issue going on, of course, with Brexit, and lots of European people have gone home, sadly. But then there's a shortage of nurses, and there's 100,000 jobs available for nursing that they can't fill. And then there's all these, fruit pickers, and all these pigs had to get slaughtered because there was no one actually to come and do the pig meat thing, whatever that happened to be. And so that's causing issues. And now they're talking about bringing people in from India. And it's like, so you stop people coming from Europe, now you're bringing people in from India. Like, I don't mind where you bring people in. But I'm just intelligent enough, experienced enough, dumb enough, I don't know, call it whatever you want, to understand that we need lower paid workers coming in to do the jobs that people sat on their asses in the UK housing, paid by housing benefit, don't want to do. I'm just aware of that. So maybe that's why, although these landlords have gone out and we've lost people, but rents have gone up because more people are coming in, or there's less properties. Who the hell knows? But it's a good combination. I talked about this 5 years ago, and we said exactly this at exactly this time. When that final tax return goes in at the end of Section 24, those 4 years of taper relief, final tax return goes in, we're going to see dramatic rent increases. And I said it was 50%, and it wasn't as high as that. It's probably 30%, 40%. But it's a damn good guess. Compared with Savills, who go on about rents going up 4% a year for, just like, what are you talking about, Savills? The fact that you work for Savills, do you know what you're talking about? Have you got any actual real-life experience? Because it's the real-life experience I would put my money on. And more importantly, I would put my money on my real-life experience, because it's me that's at the coalface touching what's going on with property prices and valuations and tenants and what they want and so on. Even though I'm 1,000 miles away, I would rather put the investment into my knowledge on that than what Savills are saying or what the ONS are saying, because these guys are bald-faced liars. And the bald-faced liars because A, they don't know what we're talking about, B, they think they know what we're talking about, C, they've read lots of books with lots of long words by Adam Smith and Keynesian and Marxism, and D, they don't own property. They work for the ONS or for Savills in order to generate a cash flow income. How about you get rid of that and you go buy property and you live off the proceeds from that? Trust me, your level of expertise soon increases rather dramatically when your entire future depends on your ability to rent out property and manage tenants and all the rest of it. Anyway, good old rant there. Hope you liked that.